Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to profile Belcourt, North Dakota sculptor Bennett Breen. But first, joining me now is retired Major General Mike Haugen. General, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, John. Thanks for the invite.
Well, you're here today to talk about the Fargo Air Show. I know that, and we're excited about that, and a lot going on. But before we do that, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and your background, please.
Well, I grew up in the Valley City area. Still have a farm up there, and went to Valley City State and then graduated from Minot State. I started flying in my high school age and have been a pilot ever since. Flew with the Air National Guard here in Fargo, the Happy Hooligans, ended up as the commander of the Happy Hooligans, and also flew with Frontier Airlines, and ended up as the Adjutant General, retired from the military as the Adjutant General for the state of North Dakota. So I've been around airplanes and air shows my whole life.
Well, there you go. So you're probably going to answer my next question. You know, how and when did you get started with the Fargo Air Show? And I want to hold this up real quick because we're excited. Fargo Air Show is back.
It is.
July 24th and 25th. So, but let's go. How did you get, and when did you get started with it?
I was in the Air National Guard, and the Air National Guard had sponsored a couple of air show open houses as military organizations. And then Dick Wallstead, my co-chair, was involved in organizing a civilian/military air show, and we actually were incorporated back in I believe it was 1986, and I'm one of the original signers. We're a 501c4 organization, so we're a charity, and if we are lucky enough to earn any money at the air show, we use, as Dick says, we use kind of a strange business model. We give it away. And so over the years, we have given, almost $600,000 back to the community. We donate money to the Fargo Air Museum. We've donated money to the Roger Maris Cancer Center, Sanford, and numerous charities around the community.
Yeah, of course, last year, due to COVID, the air show was canceled. Probably a big disappointment, but can you talk about that and how all that transpired and what happened?
Well, actually, last year there were numerous shows canceled, but we have normally done a show every other year. Mm-hmm. And last year we were not scheduled, and we were lucky we weren't, because there were so few air shows. Matter of fact, in talking with performers to line up this year's air show, several of them said if they do not have a show this year, they're going to sell their airplane and quit the business. So I think we're finding it's just the opposite. There are numerous shows that we know have been canceled, but those that are a little later in the season, like ours is, the end of July, 24th and 25th, the excitement is there, and it also varies state by state. There are some shows that you would have thought would happen in California that are not. The Midwest, there are a lot of air shows that are happening, and I think it's a difference in how different states treat the COVID lockdown.
Yeah, well, you're probably right with that, because you know, it's back. Seems like it's going to be a great show, looking at your flyer and talking about it here. But were you happy to see the CDC, of course, guidelines changing? I mean, come on, in January, I didn't think I would be able to get a vaccination until about now, you know, June or July, and yet I was able to get it in March. Yeah. So vaccinations happened a lot quicker. And so has that just made it even easier to have this event?
It has. And back when we were first really worried about whether we could actually put on a show or not, we did some background study, and we had some volunteers from the state, from UND School of Medicine, and from County Health here in Fargo do an analysis, and they looked at what was going on at the time with vaccinations. They explored, well, your event is all outside. That's the number one good thing. It'll be later in the season when it's warmer, so that's a second good thing. And again, looking at outside activities, and they basically said, in studying all of the factors, we think you should not have an issue putting on a show. We also said we want another analysis by you in June. So they are right now just looking at it again, of course, looking at CDC guidelines, just like you mentioned. The Department of Defense guidelines are, of course, we have DOD areas out at the airport. They have been relaxed. And the only ones that have not yet is TSA. So the Transportation Security Administration is still, and they say, well, they own the airport. And we kind of go, well, yes, we understand federal money is used to operate the airport, and we have to follow their guidelines, but we also look at city, state, county, federal guidelines from other agencies, and they're quite different. So what we're hoping, and we're going to stress to people who want to buy tickets, is to check the website right before you go to see what our restrictions are. But we're still going to do some precautionary measures. We've looked at how much square footage we have. We have 32 acres that's fenced in for the air show. So we can put, including social distancing, we can put about 60,000 people in that area. Well, we've never had 60,000 people. Well, we do run 20,000 per day, 25,000, and we still have plenty of room to spread out. We also have airplanes that will be open and available to walk through, to look at, and we will do hand sanitizing. We'll offer face masks, maybe gloves when you go through. So we're still going to do safety precautions, but again, we're outside. It should be nice and warm if this weekend is anything like the rest of the summer.
Sure.
You know.
Well, as you and I were talking before we came on camera here, a lot of events are starting to have a lot of people attending, especially if they're outside events.
Correct.
So, but tell us about what's going to happen at the air show this year. What do you have?
Well, the headliners are the Blue Angels. Mm-hmm. And the Blue Angels are back again for, I don't remember how many times, I think about 11 times now we've had them. And this year is really quite unique for a couple of reasons. And the main one is that the boss, the commander, is Lieutenant Commander Brian Kesselring. Now, Brian is a Fargo South High School graduate. He's a Concordia graduate, and he attended with his father, Kurt, the air show in 1986. And at that air show, the boss was Gil Rude from Portland, North Dakota. And Brian looked at the Blues, pointed them out, and said, "Dad, someday I'm going to do that." And lo and behold, this year he is doing that. So he will be here as the boss. So it's really great to welcome the Blues, and especially their new commander, because he's a local boy.
Absolutely, roots right here in North Dakota. In fact, let's take a quick look at some of that video. tell you what, that's some fun video to watch, and that was only
It
a short version of what the people will see if they go out. Can you talk about the precision and the training required to fly those planes?
Certainly. The Blues fly a tighter formation than a normal military pilot. When I used to fly the F-16 or the F-4, we'd fly with 3 feet of wing spacing. Okay, so you could move up and down. The Blues normally fly with 18 inches of wing spacing, and they even joke once in a while. Sometimes we exchange paint, which means they bump. But the maneuvers that they fly are designed for the show, of course, but they are also basic air-to-air maneuvers that all the military pilots who fly fighters use and do. So it takes a lot of experience to get to the point of being asked to be on the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds, either one. And the precision and the capabilities of the airplane is what is the demonstration teams try to relay to the crowd and say, this is what your Navy does, this is what your Marine Corps does, or this is what your Air Force does. Mm-hmm. So it's...
Well, can you talk about some of the other planes people will see? Obviously, the Blue Angels are fighter jets, but there's all kinds of restored planes.
There are. We have some unique ones. We have a couple of brothers in Valley City called the Lindemann brothers. Okay, so there's Paul and Jared Lindemann. They fly 3 different airplanes in the air show. So they will fly a Stearman, a World War II trainer, and they do an act with that. They fly a Pitts Special, and then they have a 1939 Waco, which is a biplane with a big radial engine. But this Waco is unique. It also has a jet engine on the bottom. So they're going to fly that, and Rad Aerosports out of Valley City is one of our main sponsors this year. And then for the first time ever, Jeff Bourbon, who flies a Yak, it's a very unique airplane because it's 2 airplanes stuck together. What he did is he cut the wings off and put these 2, and it's a Russian airplane, Russian trainer with a radial engine. So he put these 2 airplanes together to make a twin-engine aerobatic airplane, and then decided, like the Lindemans with Rad Aerosports, I need more power, so I'm going to hang a jet engine on the bottom of mine too. So these 2 are going to do a dual act, and then they're going to premiere that act here, and then go to Oshkosh, the big EAA fly-in. So we have Valley City connection. Now, Jeff Bourbon went to UND flight school. And then we have 2 F-35, Marine Corps F-35s coming in, also flown by a UND graduate. And he's an active duty Marine, so they're coming in. And then we have Kent Peach from Minot. So we have a good North Dakota bunch of performers here, so it'll be a great local show. And then we have some other airplanes that are unique. I also want to get into an education piece that we've really never had before, and that is we have a STEM program for science, technology, engineering, and math, and we have a local group of students who do robotics. They're going to put on a demonstration. We have an Air Force recruiting booth that has virtual displays in it, so kids can go up and see a TV screen. It's interactive. They can change tires on a C-130. They can fix a hydraulic leak on an airplane. So it's not just about flying, but it's all the other aspects of that. And we're going to have UND will be down with some of their airplanes, and then North Dakota State University is going to be in place. So we're going to offer educational things for kids, not not just watch the airplanes, but actually hands-on and see what type of careers you might like to have in aviation.
Sure, General, so much going on. It sounds great. But how many people, volunteers, does it take to put this air show on?
Oh my, we have the best committee ever. We have 70 volunteers on this committee, and it's an established committee, and we have everybody in that committee heads their niche. And so to be the co-chair is just an easy job because everybody does their part. So we have everything from someone worrying about setting up tents, tables, chairs, to porta potties, to garbage, to transportation, to marketing, and all we get to do is, how's your area? How's your area? And they're, oh, we're doing great. So.
Is the air show safe? You know, some people, with all the activity, with all the planes, is
Yes. Well, let me tell you that we have only had really tiny, minor injuries. Most of those have been people tripping on the tarmac or something like that. But what we do is each year before an air show, we have the complete safety review and we have an accident plan in place. The fire chief at the airport conducts a tabletop exercise with all the fire departments and all the law enforcement agencies who are involved. And it's so we are prepared if anything happens. Obviously, we don't want anything to happen. And I might also mention, in bringing up law enforcement, this year there's going to be some road construction. The university on the east side of the airport is being reconstructed. So there will be some traffic delays. And of course, 19th Avenue is shut down for the aerobatic box for people to fly in. So the FAA does not allow any driving in that box. So if you come to the air show, plan on a little bit slower traffic that day.
Okay. Well, with that said, I understand you have a family pass. Can you talk about the tickets?
Yes. Well, you know, we looked at ticketing, and we've tried to figure out what would someone want that we aren't offering. So this year we're offering mom and dad and 2 kids, and you can go online to the FargoAirShow.com to buy all your tickets. And you can buy them in advance, and it's cheaper if you buy them ahead of time. And we've had very good response so far, so don't delay too long. But that was one of the things that we thought, you know, to get more families out there, we should offer that. So we're doing that this year.
Well, what kind of crowds do you expect this year, especially with COVID?
From what I've seen, and you mentioned earlier about the Indianapolis and the outdoor gatherings, the 500, that I think we're probably going to have 30,000 people out here this year. Wow. So, going to be a great show. And we also have some ground acts. So you have to get into the area to see the ground acts. We have to stop the show when the airlines land and take off. So we have motorcycle jumpers again. We've got a jet truck that has 3 jet engines on it. It goes 300 miles an hour and a half mile. And so you're going to see a lot of smoke and fire.
Boy, there's so much going on. I'm glad you got to those ground shows. But if people want more information, where can they go? Who can they contact?
FargoAirShow.com and Air Show, we dropped the W off it. It's just like Fargo. There's no W in Fargo. So there's no W in Air Show. And you can find our ticketing. You can find the latest on COVID. You can find the latest.
Well, best of luck to you. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for more. Bennett Breen is a Native American and Métis artist whose sculptures can be found across the region. He also designed the now retired University of North Dakota Indian Head logo. To watch him work at his studio in Belcourt, North Dakota is an amazing experience.
I like portraying something good. God, country, family. That's the way we roll around here. My name is Bennett Breen. I'm from Belcourt, North Dakota. I'm Turtle Mountain Chippewa Métis artist. I make 2- and 3-dimensional artworks. I like to live honorably. That's the way I was raised. Parents are both French and Indian. Grandparents on both sides, French and Indian. My oldest brother started drawing one time. When he was 8 years old, I was 6. I seen him drawing tanks and boats and soldiers and whatever, so I thought that was cooler than heck. I was just blown away by what you could do with a pencil. When I was in boarding school at St. Joseph's Indian Boarding School in Chamberlain, I seen Oscar Howe's work, and that's when I kind of kicked into the native subject matter. I went to school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I took 3 firsts in 3 shows I entered. Taos, the Heard Museum in Phoenix, and then one in Santa Fe. Stan Johnson was the instructor at UND, and that was his last year, 83-84 school year, and that was when I took my first sculpture classes. One of the assignments was to do something small, medium, and life-size, and I did a small stone sculpture. I only did the small one for the 3 projects in the first semester, and then the second semester I took sculpture 2, and he asked what I wanted to do this time, and I said, geez, I like to do a life-size sculpture. He says, what you gonna make? I says, I don't know, maybe a buffalo? He says, well, what you can make it out of? I says, geez, I don't know. He says, do you ever weld? I said, no. He says, can you learn? I said, yeah. And that's when I got that big, wow, man, this is just so amazing. I like abstract and I like realism. So I try to get the 2 together. Rebar, you're doing something different, more like a 3-dimensional thing. That rebar is like a pencil line in space. You can bend it by hand, you can cut it with a bolt cutter by hand, you don't need no power, nothing. And then it's the cheapest stuff you could get, really, the cheapest metal. I'm working on another Fighting Sioux sculpture. This is my second one. The first one I did in 2015. That's at Ingolstadt Arena by Ingolstadt's Box. I hadn't done a face in a while, and this one's going a little different. It's going a little faster, actually. It's challenging. You really have to use your brain. I did the profile first. I copied the profile off my design just right. You start that way first. You always do the research if you could. The first one was the bison on the Capitol, then the horse on the Capitol, and then the sharp-tailed grouse, a piece in the Federal Building, that's 4 in Bismarck, and then I got 2 in Wahpeton, 3 in Grand Forks, 1 in Crookston, 4 around Belcourt. So I'm pretty much just a North Dakota guy. They're different, but they're all kind of like the same in a way because you put all of yourself into each one. I like doing something that'll bring some good thoughts or memory, like an eagle. For the native, he was like the messenger, brought your prayers to God. The Great Spirit gets you Manitou, however you want to say it. I was right over here when I designed the Fighting Sioux logo. That was in 1999. Earl Strinden asked me to come up with one, so I sat down about a week. I had it done. I got sketches of different ones. I just did the one and I showed it to Earl and said, good, we'll take it. As for the design of the guy, I just drew it out. When I started it, it was going to be something warrior type. Strong looking, brave, the purposeful look, the feathers for their honors of what they've done in life. Threw a little war paint on there. The war paint's for everyday struggles. Maybe having a cheerful disposition at work, maybe that's the struggle for you. Saying hi to someone you don't like, maybe. I'm still doing Fighting Sioux paintings for people and I personalize them, whatever you want on it. So I guess the Sioux logo's been pretty kind to me. It's gratifying. You got to be thankful you get to do stuff like that. And then you just think about what you're going to do next. If they like it, that makes me feel pretty good. If you could explain the symbolism to them, I'm sure they'll feel a little different, I suppose, if you're there talking to them right there. If they can just look and admire maybe the skill and patience it took to do something like that. I want them to know I'm from Belcourt. I love the state, the good people you meet around here. I wouldn't want to be in New York or LA, you crazy? North Dakota, that's the place to be.
Well, that's all we have this week on Prairie Pulse. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funded by the North Dakota Council on the Arts and by the members of Prairie Public.